Hello, welcome to Second Sunday Speaker Series. I'm Connie Swoboda with Blackhawk County Conservation at Hartman Reserve. Every second Sunday of each month, we present a speaker that will share his or her knowledge about nature. Today, we welcome Tom Freed, who will present Geocaching 101. Now, geocaching is a real-world outdoor treasure hunting game using GPS-enabled devices or an app on your phone. It's a fun outdoor activity that can be enjoyed by individuals, groups, or families. Participants navigate to a specific set of GPS coordinates and then attempt to find the geocache hidden at that location. Geocaches are located all over the world. Some people even plan their vacations around geocaching. Right, Tom?
Absolutely. I'm guilty.
So, you're guilty. And what is geocache? Well, geo, like geography, has to do with the earth, and cache is a hiding place, especially for concealing and preserving provisions or implements, and it can also mean a secure place for storage. Now, Tom is a local geocache expert with 7,626 finds in 28 different states, including Alaska and Hawaii, and also in Canada. Tom gave a similar presentation 2 years ago that was real popular at Hartman, and we've invited him back again because we know how you all are aching to get outside this spring. Today, you'll learn the basics of geocaching, how to create an account, and an understanding of the information that is displayed on a geocache page. With that information, you'll be able to choose a cache you want to search for and go out and find that first cache. And no worries if you have questions, Tom will be here at Hartman Reserve on April 11th at 2 o'clock to answer questions and help send you on your way geocaching at Hartman Reserve. And soon you'll be hooked on geocaching too, just like Tom. Now, the extended forecast says it's going to be a gorgeous day on April 11th, so mark your calendars now. Now, here's Tom Freed and Geocaching 101.
Thank you, Connie. I think geocaching has really gained a lot of popularity this last year with the COVID situation. It's a great way to social distance. It's both for families or for individuals. It seems like it's really become very popular. So what I want to cover today, Connie's already mentioned a little bit of the basics, but I want to cover just basically what is geocaching, how do I get started, what do you need to get started, some of the options available, then I'll explain some of the information that's available on a cache page. And then to kind of round it out, I want to talk a little bit about a fairly new app that is related to the geocache app called Adventure Labs. It's something fairly new, but I want to make you aware of it because we actually have an adventure lab right here at Hartman. So moving right into the presentation, geocaching is an outdoor treasure hunt game, as Connie said, that uses GPS technology, and it refers to the latitude and longitude coordinates, and it's used to navigate to a hiding spot where somebody has hidden a cache or a container for other people to go find. And there are millions of caches worldwide, as Connie said, and they're hidden everywhere. Parks, forests, urban areas. You can find them in parking lots, on lampposts, and just about everywhere imaginable. I particularly like the Waterloo Cedar Falls area and the number of bike trails we have, because there's a lot of caches hidden along the bicycle trails, and bicycling is almost as much of a passion for me as geocaching. So putting geocaching in simple terms, a lot of people have made the comment, they're using $1 million satellites to find Tupperware in the woods. And that's a real simple way of putting it, but basically that's the reality of geocaching. So how does it work? People use a handheld GPS, or you can use your smartphone, that receives signals from satellites that are located everywhere around the globe. There's not a spot on the planet that you could go that you would not be in view of a satellite. So in order to get a real accurate position of where you are located on the planet, you need a minimum of 3 satellites, and it triangulates to the area where you're located and can give you pinpoint accuracy of what your location is. So what latitude, longitude, just a quick background. Latitude is measuring the distance that you are located either north or south of the equator. And longitude is measuring the distance that you are located either east or west of a prime meridian. And the prime meridian is located in Greenwich, England. And the measurements are from that point, either east or west direction. And units that are used for latitude, longitude are both expressed in degrees and minutes. And there's an example there of location, which is actually the location of a cache that's hidden very close to the Hartman office here. North 42 degrees, 31.392 minutes. And it's west 092, 24.879 minutes. So just a quick background, when did geocaching start? And actually the GPS technology, which stands for Global Positioning System, was developed by the US military for tracking submarine movements back in the 1960s. So at the first usage of GPS was for military use exclusively. And up until May of the year 2000, it was strictly forbidden for use except for military. But on May 2nd of 2000, it's often referred to as throwing the blue switch. I'm not really sure why, but blue switch was thrown and technology of GPS was made available to the general public's use. So the very next day, a gentleman out near Portland, Oregon, got the idea to hide a 5-gallon bucket out in the timber near Portland, and he hid some items inside of it, just some knickknack items, and he posted the coordinates online, and the coordinates listed there where the very first geocache or container was hidden at that time. So within the first 3 days after that date, there were 2 individuals that used their own GPS units to go find that container. And once they found it, they went online and shared their experience for others to see. And in the following weeks, there began to be other people that would hide their containers worldwide and post their coordinates online. So in September of 2000, a website was launched called geocachingcom. And at that time, there were only 75 known caches that existed worldwide. Excuse me. As Connie said, the word caching came from the words geo, which stands for Earth, and caching, which refers to a hiding spot. So what do you need to get started? Well, you can use your smartphone with some apps that are free, or you can purchase a handheld GPS device. There are some advantages to each one, and I'll go over them quickly. But on the smartphone, there are basically 3 apps. There are others available as well, but the 3 that I'm aware of, the icons are shown there on your screen. And the one on the left is a GEO app, which is directly associated with a geocache.com page. Then there's another app called CGEO. And there's also one for iPhones. It's called Cachely. Now, I don't have any experience with iPhones, but a number of people that I know do like that Cachely app for iPhones. I'm not recommending one over the other. I suggest that you try them out and see what you prefer. So each version has its own advantages and disadvantages. The handheld GPS will typically give you better accuracy. So your coordinates, it'll navigate you a little more precisely to your specific location. It's very good in wooded areas. Sometimes cell phone reception can be a little bit weak in timber or more heavily dense areas. But GPS units, hand units tend to be more accurate there. They can be expensive. You can buy a GPS unit for as little as $100, but they can run into the range of several $100s. You do have to preload the waypoints on that you want to go look for. So the GPSs you want to find, you have to preload them onto your GPS. It is not a live type application. And then you would have to go back on your computer later and actually log the finds online. With a smartphone, they're very convenient. Everybody today has a smartphone. You have live usage. So when you look at the map on your smartphone, you're seeing all the geocaches that are in your area, and you can work live. You don't have to download them. And you can log your finds at the time you make the find or discovery. And it's cheap. The apps are free. You don't have to pay anything. But the disadvantages, they tend to not be quite as accurate and sometimes can be difficult to navigate. I found when I do use my smartphone that sometimes my compass isn't pointing in the right direction. So it makes it a little more difficult to navigate. So to get started, you have to create an account. Once you've downloaded the app on your phone, you can either log in there or you can go to the geocaching.com site on your computer. Pretty much everything today, you have to create an account, a username and a password. And the examples I've shown in this presentation are from using the GEO app on the Android. So this is what you would be seeing if you tried to create this account online on your phone. You basically, all you need is your email, a username, and a password. Now there are hundreds and thousands of geocachers around the world, so don't be surprised if your username that you happen to choose might already be in use and you may have to choose something else. I've given you a couple examples on the screen here of geocache names. My geocache name is Let Freedom Ring. At the time I created my account in May of 2003, I didn't realize that I would be signing that name on every geocache, or I probably would have made a little bit shorter name. But typically I will abbreviate mine on a cache that's maybe has a small log sheet. I'll just sign it LFR. And another example, my son, who helped with the presentation 2 years ago and was part of Let Freedom Ring when I started. His name is Mark and his wife's name is Kayla. So their geocache name is Markayla. As you can see, he's really much more avid cacher than myself. He, since 2010, has over 16,000 finds currently. So once you've created your account, you'll get some welcoming windows. And they basically welcome you to the app. It tells you here that there's over 3 million caches hidden around the world. They also put a disclaimer in, pretty much the same as anybody would, warning you to be safe. It's an outdoor activity. There are some dangers involved. If you, depending on where you cache, you may be in a rugged area where there's uneven terrain and things like that, poisonous plants, insects. So basically letting you know you're on your own and there's no liability on the part of geocaching. And then it will also give you an option to become a premium member. The app is free. You can play Geocache without becoming a premium member, but there are some restrictions and limitations to what you can do unless you do become a premium member. But it's a relatively low cost of only about $30 a year. And it opens up other features that you can do, some filters and various things, notifications that you can set up, which are very beneficial if you become a serious geocacher. So once you open the app, you'll get a map, and the map you can move around. You can zoom in and out on your phone screen, but you'll see something like this that has a bunch of the little circles on it. And each one of those is actually a geocache that's hidden somewhere. And you'll see there are various different types of icons there. The majority of them are green, a green circle with a little box in it. Those are traditional caches. I'll talk about each of these a little bit individually, but you see some other types there, some with a blue circle and a question mark, some with an orange circle and a couple boxes in it. And then there's one located in the upper part of this a little bit to the left that looks like a planet or a globe. So those are each a different type of geocache. The green box that's most popular is a traditional type geocache. There will be a container of some size and sort hidden at those posted coordinates. At the bare minimum, that container will contain a logbook that you would sign once you found it. And depending on the size of the container, it may also contain some additional items that you can trade, or it may contain trackable items, which is another little side game that geocachers play. Now, the orange box with two boxes in it is it's called a multi-cache, where there's more than one location. So the coordinates will take you to the first location, but the log and the container that you need to sign is not located there. It will be somewhere else. At that first location, you'll be able to collect some information of some sort. It may be as simple as finding a container there that has a slip of paper in it with the final coordinates of the next stage. Or you may need to solve some type of problem or find some information at that site that would help you find the next location or the final. A common multi-cache that I've seen will be in a cemetery, and the coordinates will take you to a particular monument or a tombstone where you might have to collect information about a person's name or possibly the dates, and do some calculations to determine where the final is. A puzzle or challenge type cache, it's really two different types, but they all fall under that question mark. The puzzle, you will have to actually solve some type of a puzzle in order to determine the final coordinates. Again, it can be a simple math equation or answering some questions or finding information at that site. Or it may involve a challenge cache, where a challenge cache, you have to meet a certain criterion before you can claim it. It may be that you are required to, say, find your first 1,000 caches before you can claim that cache. Container will actually be located there, but you cannot claim it until you meet those qualifications. Excuse me. Other cache types that you may see, I'm not going to go in and spend a lot of time on these, but you can go to the geocaching.com page and get an explanation of each one of these. But just to make you aware that some of the other icons you see on the map may look like these. And here's a few more different types of cache types. And also included in here, the Adventure Lab, which is one It requires a separate app, and we'll be talking about that a little bit more towards the end of the presentation. Excuse me. So once you've looked at the map and you find a cache that you decide you want to navigate to, you basically just tap that icon on the screen and it will open up a home page for that cache that'll show information. Excuse me, I got a frog. And there's a lot of information on this page. And if you use one of the other apps, the same information will be displayed, but it may be arranged a little bit different. But at the top of this page, you'll see the name of the cache and a GC code. Every geocache is identified by a GC code and a sequence of numbers and letters. And this is the true identity of that geocache. Also in there, you'll see buttons for navigating or to log that you found it. You see a rating down there a little bit towards the middle. It says difficulty, and another one for terrain, and then another for the size of the container. Then it shows the name of the persons that placed this cache. The person that actually placed this cache, his geocache name was Old Fat Guy. There's a hint button and a message button, and then a description, activity, wonders of the world, and attributes. And we'll look at each of these areas in a little bit more detail. So first of all, the DT, excuse me, Connie, I've got a bad tickle. The difficulty and terrain are ratings that are given to every cache on a 1 to 5 scale at 0.5 intervals. So the very easiest difficulty or terrain would be a 1.0, and the most difficult would be a 5.0. The difficulty is the effort that you would need to solve the cache or to find where the cache and the logbook is actually hidden. The terrain would be the physical effort that you need to arrive at those posted coordinates. So terrain could be perfectly level ground, which would rate a 1.0, or it could be a steep, very steep incline or a cliff, or possibly even a cache that's hidden like up in a tree that would be more difficult to get to, and it would be a higher terrain rating. So cache sizes and containers, basically anything can be used all the way from a micro or a nano to a small, to a regular, to a large, and then others. And just as an example here, I don't know if you can see what I'm holding here, but this would be considered a nano, which is a very small container. It's magnetic and it might be stuck on a bolt head or something. Very small, more difficult to find. Connie's taking pity on me here with some candy.
And then this is a cough drop.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
A regular size container might be something like this, or a peanut butter jar. And then really when geocaching started, they used larger containers like this ammunition box or something. The majority of caches you'll find today are going to be fairly small. Here are some little bison tubes. They come in various colors. And those smaller containers typically will only contain a log sheet, will not have any trade items or anything in them, and even will not contain a pen. So one of the rules of geocaching, be sure that you always carry a pen with you wherever you go, because the logbook needs to be signed. There's also a section there for attributes. So the attributes basically give you some information about what you can expect to find at the cache location. It includes all types of information, everywhere from the conditions that you might find Is it accessible year round? Is stealth required? Is it a high traffic area where you may encounter a lot of people and need to use stealth? Is it recommended for kids? How long a hike is it? Is it a real long hike or fairly short? It'll also, the attributes will cover things like what hazards you might encounter. Is there a possibility of encountering poisonous plants, thorns, ticks, dangerous animals, things like that? And then whether any equipment is needed to, whether it's a climber cache, whether you need a flashlight to look in a dark area to find it, possibly even a boat. I have found caches that are on islands that you need to navigate to with a kayak or a boat. And then also, as kind of helpful, they may tell you whether there's facilities nearby, such as restrooms or picnic areas or camping grounds. So you kind of know what to expect when you head out towards trying to find that cache. So going back to the initial cache page then with all that information, once you've decided which cache you want to find, I gave you a couple screenshots here of different options you can use to navigate to the cache. On the left, again, was an example, the same cache page we looked at earlier. But you see the button in the upper left there that says navigate. If you click on that button for navigation, it would open a window like the one in the middle where you see an actual map. And there are a couple options for maps. And this is a satellite view. So it's basically showing you what you would see from an aerial view. And then it shows on that map where you are currently located. And it will also show you where the final destination or where the cache is hidden. Now, this is, again, one that I chose that's just outside the Hartman office here. And as you can see, it shows we're only 260 feet away from that cache at this location. Another option would be to go to the compass view. In the upper right-hand corner, you'll see a little circle there, a white circle, and that is opening up the compass. So the compass would just basically give you what you see on the right. It'll show the same distance, but it just gives you a different option to navigate. Typically, if you're a greater distance away from a cache, you may want to start out using the map view to get you within reasonable distance of the cache, and then switch over to compass once you get closer and use it to navigate to the location. Now, just under the distance shown there, 261, it shows a plus or minus of 28 feet. Again, this is using the phone app, and the phone typically will not give you quite the amount of the accuracy that you might see with a GPS unit. Once you've been a little more experienced with geocaching, you'll find that when you get within a reasonable distance, say in the first 30 feet, 20 feet or so, you'll just want to stop and start looking around, and you kind of learn where geocaches are typically hidden, and you start just viewing your surroundings and trying to see something that maybe looks a little out of place or someplace that would be a good hiding spot, and then investigate that spot a little closer. So with a GPS unit, probably you'd see that plus or minus more down into the possibly 12 to 20 feet range instead of 20 to 30. So once you've found the cache, what do you do? I'll back up one screen here quick. In the left-hand window there, you'll see the log button. You would push that button to log whether or not you found that cache. So this is what the log page would open up with the GEO app. And I just want to emphasize that you must sign the log sheet in order to get credit for making that find. If the cache is up in a tree, but you don't climb up there to get the container and sign the log, you cannot really claim that you found it. You just saw it, but you didn't log it. So we emphasize that you really do need to sign that log sheet. And once you found it, you can open up this page, and when you click on log, you'll have three options. You can log that you found it. You can log a DNF, which means that you did not find it, or you can write a note. And if you write a note, it may say something that the cache owner can use, saying a container was damaged and the log was wet or something like that. It's helpful information. We really do encourage you to log if you did not find a cache, as well as if you did find it, because cache owners can use that information to know whether they need to go out and check whether there's a problem with that cache and if it might be missing or damaged or something. Some people will write a very generic message in the log sheet, such as TFTC, which just stands for thanks for the cache. But cache owners, myself included, really do appreciate if you write a little bit of a description of what your experience was finding the cache. It just makes it more interesting for the cache owner, as well as for other people that are playing the game, to find out what your experience was like getting to that cache. You also see a little picture of a camera down there. You can include a picture with your log if you would like. But we do really stress that your picture or the text that you write, neither one should reveal where the cache is actually hidden. You don't want to spoil the fun for the next person that might be playing the caching game and looking for this one by revealing too much information for them. You can drop hints if it's a difficult cache, but please do not post a picture or write text that actually reveals the hide location. So once you've logged it, you've earned a smiley. And when you go back to your map, you will see a smiley face where that cache was, showing that you found it. And if you go back and look in your profile, you'll find that your profile will start accumulating all these facts and figures about all the finds that you've made over time. It'll show the total number of finds you've found. It'll show the cache types you've found, the different container types you've found. And there's numerous stats about what dates you found and those types of things, as well as the difficulty and terrain combinations that you've found. There's a possibility of 9 different D ratings or difficulty ratings and 9 different terrain ratings. So you've got 81 different possibilities of DT combinations. And your stats page will show which ones of those you've filled. And over time, you'll become more interested in your stats and you'll want to see if you can fill all 81 of those possible combinations. So the larger containers, like the ammo box, you may find some other items in that box besides the log sheet. And those items may be trackables, which are physical items that have a tracking number on them that are another side game that geocachers play. And a trackable is intended to be moved from one cache to another. So a trackable can be a number of things, and it may be like a dog tag like this that has a number on it that's attached to an item. Or it may be a coin or some other type of physical item. But my understanding is that you can only track an item if you are a premium member. So if you encounter a trackable, just be aware of what they are. They're not items that you can keep. They're intended to keep moving from cache to cache. So if you find them and you want to get involved in that part of the game, you have an option to either retrieve the trackable or discover them. You can discover it by just recording the number that you found on it and logging it as discovered, and you leave it in the same cache. But if you retrieve it, you actually take it with you and then you place it in another cache somewhere. But if you do decide to take it, we suggest that you move it into another cache as soon as possible. And be sure to log it. It's common that trackables tend to get misplaced and not properly logged. Other items that you might find in that container we refer to as swag. And these are just inexpensive trade items that you can put in a cache. This is what kind of makes it fun for the kids. They like to see if there's trade items in there. And you take something and put something back in place. It's, keychains, pins, golf balls, anything small that fits into a cache. Just be sure you don't put any food items or items that might attract animals in a cache. So hiding a geocache, I'm just going to very briefly mention this because we do not recommend that when you're just starting out geocaching that you rush out and try to place your own hide. A lot of people think that right away, but we do really recommend that you find maybe a minimum of 50 caches before you try to place your own hide somewhere. You'll just gain experience about proper type of container, good locations, those types of things. I've seen a lot of caches put out that are not in a watertight container, and they'll get water in them real quickly, or an animal will chew on them or something, and they just don't hold up. But there are guidelines on the geocache.com page, very, very good set of instructions that you should read before you decide to place your own hide. And if you do place a hide eventually, just know that once you've filled out your information on your page, that hide gets sent to a reviewer who is a volunteer that will review all the information and make sure everything meets the standards before it can be approved and released to the public. Here's just a few random geocache terms that you may run into, and just to kind of help you out and know what they mean. They're in alphabetical order, but BYOP is one you hear. That just means bring your own pen. And even if it's a larger size container, we recommend that you always have a pen with you at all times when you're caching. CO refers to the cache owner, the person that placed the cache. DNF stands for did not find. DT, we covered that. That's a difficulty terrain combination. FTF stands for first to find. Once you've gotten into geocaching a little bit more, one of the challenges is when a new cache gets published, see if you can be the first one to find that cache. And that can be a pretty good competition sometimes to see who can get there the quickest and find that cache, be the first to find. GZ stands for ground zero, which just means once you're getting close to where that cache is hidden, that's considered ground zero. LPC stands for lamppost cache. A lot of people never notice that a lamppost typically has a box at the base that's either metal or plastic that covers up the bolts where that post is anchored to the base. That's a common hiding place for geocaches in parking lots, under that metal or plastic box. A muggle is a person that's a non-geocacher that may not really understand what you're doing, and they may be suspicious of your activity. So we just call them muggles. PNG stands for park and grab. Basically, a geocache that's a park and grab, you can pull right up to it in your car, step out the door, and with very little distance, you can find that cache and sign the log. The swag was all those items that are hidden in some larger containers. Just stands for stuff we all get. A TB is a trackable, or it can also be referred to as a travel bug. It's something that wants to move from cache to cache. TFTC is just thanks for the cache. And TOTT stands for tools of the trade. The bottom right picture there shows a few of the items that I carry in my tool bag. One thing that every geocacher really needs as a tool of the trade, besides your pencil, is a pair of tweezers. And that's probably one of the tools of the trade that every beginner geocache should plan on taking with them. Some of these small containers that I showed you there, the logbook may be very difficult to get out of that cache container. So a pair of tweezers can be very handy for extracting that log sheet. So we're going to switch gears just for a second, and I'll talk about the Adventure Lab. This was a fairly new separate app that works with geocaching that was first launched in just 2019, just a couple years ago. And it's only can be placed by people that have received permission from the geocaching headquarters. And in 2019, they gave permission for 250 of these worldwide to be developed just on a test basis. So there's very, very few of these compared to the regular geocaches. In fact, there are only 2 in the Waterloo Cedar Falls area, but one of those happens to be right here in Hartman. So that's why I wanted to talk about it. It will direct you to very specific locations again, but you will not find a container there. You will need to collect some information, and when prompted, you need to answer a question to receive credit for finding that cache. Many of these are educational. They'll take you to either a landmark or a historical marker of some type, or in the case of Hartman, you'll learn about some of the different ecosystems that are located in Hartman. But you'll learn some interesting facts about the area. And for each one of the stages of the Adventure Lab, you receive credit as finding one cache. Most Adventure Labs have 5 different locations that it will navigate you to, and some as high as 10 locations. But once you complete each of the 5, you will receive credit for each one as an individual cache. So 5 total for a lab that has 5 stages. Some of the, well, the Adventure Lab app is the blue box you see there on your screen. It's a separate app from the other ones that I've talked about. But again, it's free. And some Adventure Labs will be set up that you have to do the 5 stages in a specific order, but others you can do them in whatever order you want to. You use the same username and password that you do for your regular geocaching account. So it's not necessary to set up a separate account. And just to make you aware, some Adventure Labs will have a traditional type cache listed as a puzzle that are listed as a bonus that you can find. And they're listed as puzzles because they're not hidden where the icon shows on the map. And you have to collect some information in order to find the final coordinates. But that information you will usually find in the journals of the Adventure Lab. So if you look at the journal after you finish each stage of the Adventure Lab, you'll get the information you need to find that bonus cache. So once you open that app up, you'll come to a map view. And again, you can scroll out or you can move to other areas to display. And then if you do move to another area, you need to click on the button that says search this area in order to see if there's anything hidden there. In the Cedar Falls area, again, there's only 2 hidden, but the one is right here in Hartman. So if you tap on that icon again, it will open up that particular lab cache and bring you to a window that looks like this. So as this is a little more simplified than what you saw on a regular geocache page, gives you the name of the lab. These do not have GC codes, so you will not see anything about a GC code on these. But you'll see buttons for activity, to actually start navigating the adventure lab. Then you'll see the distance to the first stage, the number of locations, who created the adventure lab, and then a description again. And the second window here is just a continuation of the first, showing the description. And at the bottom of that, you will see a map with the actual locations where those 5 stages will be found. So once you've read the description or are ready to begin, you would click on that start button. And when you do that, the next window would open up, would look something like this. It will give you a detailed description of that location. In this example, again, this is about ecosystems. It is showing upland timber. And thanks to the Hartman staff here, they provided this information to help me set this up. And there's a description of what upland timber is. So as you're navigating to that stop, you should be, enjoying your surroundings and reading this description of what you're seeing in your area. So on the upper right-hand corner, you see, again, a compass. You would click on that and you'd get the window on the right that tells you how far away you are and what direction you need to go to get to that location. And once you get closer, there's a established, we call it geo fence, which is a distance, usually say around 100 feet, that once you're within that geo fence, the button there on the middle picture that says get closer will switch to say answer. And you will be, if you click that answer button, it will prompt you to answer a question. And again, it's usually a very simple question, one word or a number or something very simple that you need to find the answer to at that location, and then answer it, and it will prompt you whether you're right or not. And once you are, then you can view the journal, and that's where you want to read the journal and see if there's information on there that might reveal information about finding a bonus if there happens to be a bonus. So that's kind of the overall view. If you do have other questions, we certainly welcome you to come out on April 11th. I'd be very happy to visit with you and help you navigate to some of the caches that are here in Hartman. I've got a little bit at stake myself. I have at least 10 caches hidden here in the Hartman property. They've been very cooperative and agreeable to hide some caches out here, and as well as having the adventure lab here. So we would be very welcome to visit with you at that time. And one quick plug here, Iowa Geocachers organization is a statewide organization that if you want to meet other geocachers and learn more about geocaching, we certainly welcome you to consider joining the Iowa Geocachers organization. You can join for free, but we'll gladly take a $10 supporting membership if you so choose to become a supporting member of the IGO. And then one last quick plug here. The handsome young gentleman there on your right is one of my grandchildren, my grandson, that the pictures just to show that this is a family activity and fun for all ages. And Tanner there is proudly displaying a geocache that he found inside of a culvert. So Connie, I guess we can open it up to questions that you might have, or wrap it up.
I thought that was a special effect. And when you said culvert, then I was like, oh, okay. No, you did a really nice job. There was a rough spot there where, you know, if you fell to the ground, I would have had to cut it short, but you did real well. Thank you. I followed along. I even created an account while you were talking, and I'm ready to go. That's great.
Well,
I
Connie
did,
brought water into me while I was talking because I had a really serious tickle there and I thought we were going to have to start over.
like I said, it would have been over had you fallen to the floor. So thank you. I do have one question. Geocache.com is sort of like um, the granddaddy, the one website that people can go to. Are there others out there? And do you recommend people go to those, or is just best to stick with geocache.com?
I think geocache.com is really the only one. I know there's several apps on your phone, but geocaching.com is really the only website. From there, you can find all kinds of information. Um, Even for a beginner, before you even load the app, if you have an option to go on your computer to geocaching.com, it'll give you a lot of, there's even some videos that you can watch that show you the basics. And there's tabs there for finding a cache, for hiding a cache. There's even a shop there. You can go to buy hats and t-shirts, containers, GPS units, anything you might need to assist you in getting started. But geocaching.com is really the main website.
Okay. And then how many caches are at Hartman?
I currently have 10. There were 2 or 3 just added this last week. I'm in the process of maybe adding 2 or 3 more. One of the restrictions for placing a hide is that it cannot, an actual traditional hide, it cannot be any closer than 528 feet or a tenth of a mile from another cache. So there are limitations to how close we can place traditional caches. And there are some older caches from other geocachers that are hidden here as well. So I don't honestly know the total. I'd say maybe 20 in that range.
Oh, nice. So there's a
The,
lot here. We've got 340 acres, but considering the placement and that kind of thing, that there's plenty of opportunity for people to find one. And
yes,
I want to emphasize that it's a really nice family program, good exercise and being outside. And well, like both Tom and I mentioned, April 11th at 2:00 p.m. Tom will be here. And if you have any questions whatsoever, he can help you out and send you on your way. It's going to be a gorgeous day in the 50s to 60 and sunny. And I'm going to buy that. That's an extended forecast. I'll hold.
you're in charge of the weather, Connie.
Oh, go great. I think I'll hold schnack to that. Well, thank you very, very much for joining us on this pre-recorded Second Sunday Speaker Series. We're asking people to view this and then join Tom on April 11th. Our next presentation will be on May 9th, and that will be with Tom Crable, who was Iowa's first naturalist and is considered the foremost expert in Iowa and perhaps nationwide when it comes to foraging. He just brought out, he has a new book out. Oh, I just happen to have it, that he will, oh, that looks like it's probably backwards, but anyway, it'll be a really nice time and we're really pleased to have him. So thank you very much for joining us today, and thank you for supporting conservation.